Thank you so much for joining for this in-person screening. We'll begin our post-film program in just a moment. Hi, Roman. Hi, Simon.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
So, before I begin with some questions for you, Roman and Simon, I want to ask our audience, by a show of hands, how many of you had heard about Berenshtein before today's film screening or before you saw this film? So not many, if any, hands are up. So thank you so much, Roman and Simon, for sharing this story with us. Simon Shechter is the scriptwriter for the film, and Roman Shumunov, the director. I'm curious for both of you, how did you discover this partisan and why did you decide to make this movie?
So, Simon, it's a question for you. You just
Well, it all began in 2013 when we were working on the project, which took many years to make, the Museum of Jewish Soldiers in World War II. There is such a museum which will be open to public only this year, this May or probably June, and this when we were working on the films for this museum, we were riding through the country, filming and interviewing the veterans of World War II who still lived in Israel. Now, unfortunately, very few of them left. But 10 years ago, there are some people that we could find. And that's how we got to Leonid Berenshtein. We entered his very small apartment, very modest, and we spent there 4 hours. And after those 4 hours of interview, we understood that this man is absolutely unique, and his story is unique, and we decided to enter his story to the exhibition of the museum. But still, a small movie in the museum, 2 or 3 minutes is not enough, because we wanted this story to become a legacy of many people. And we knew that Leonid himself, that was his dream. He wanted the young people in Israel, at least in the city he was living, to know him and to acknowledge his deeds and his contribution to this great victory. And unfortunately, he didn't see his dream coming true. But we decided that he deserves a movie. And then we met Roman, who directed this story to a great film, which we love. And we just hope that we changed a little bit this situation in Israel, and now many people, many youngsters know his story, and maybe we fulfill his dream a little bit.
Thank you very much. So how did you come up with the dramatization with the live footage? I'm guessing this question is for Roman, and are there any pieces of the dramatization where maybe you took any poetic license?
Yeah. Okay, so actually when we start to film, when I came to Leonid Berenshtein, he was very interesting person, and he got 8 books about his life, and very detailed. When he wrote these books, he was like 70 years old, or maybe even more, like 50 years old. I mean, he was really he remember every details, and I read all the books, and it was very detailed story. And when I came to him, and he was like 95 years old, and it was very difficult to get this information, to feel the emotion. So after one session, very quickly I saw that we need to find some solution for it, and because I saw and I read in his books how he imagined this, how he tells his stories, and it was very interesting and amazing. And this way we found the solution to make it docudrama, and to get the story, and to bring the viewer to the forest, and to the real war, and to feel the real feelings. We can't do it in the pure documentary movie. So this was the decision to make it docudrama, and docudrama like very high docudrama. I mean, docudrama not only with visual scenes, but with dialogues, when we feel the characters, and we reenact the real characters, as you saw in the end of the movie. We found everyone who been with him, like the real characters, and we reenact them on the drama scenes. Yeah.
Thank you very
And
much.
one more small thing that's very interesting. We filmed this movie chronological, and it took 4.5 years. It's not was like some director decisions. It was like decision by we didn't get the budget, and yes. So it took 4.5 years, and at the same time chronological that took for Berenshtein and his friends. So it's it's really crazy. We recognize it later, that the real characters in Berenshtein and his friends passed the same period what the like our actors, like 4.5 years. And the Berenshtein in the movie, on the first scene on the movie, is Berenshtein 4 years younger than Berenshtein in the last scene on the movie. So
Wow.
He grew up with the movie.
Yeah.
Well, that's incredible. Thank you for sharing, and thank you so much for your perseverance in taking the time, investing the time into this project. That's a powerful story. Are either of you familiar with what happened to Bernstein between World War II and when you started filming, or when you started getting to know him?
Well, maybe I can answer that. He actually was a director of a big factory, a factory that made clothes, fabric, in Kiev for many years. His military career was ended immediately after the war, and we tried to find out why, and he never spoke about it. But then we found out that he actually killed an anti-Semitic officer of the KGB because this guy were making too many anti-Semitic remarks. and that's why they spare him. They didn't send him to jail, but his military career was over. So he was a director of the factory until he came first to Israel. I think it was in the late 80s or in the early 90s, and he came with the ambassador of Soviet Union, Bovin, in those times, and he was a chief of organization of friendship between Ukraine and Israel in the early 90s. And after that, he moved to Israel without his children, only him and his wife, Shura, who is also a character in the movie. And they lived in Israel until their very last day.
Thank you. I have one other question for you before I turn it over to our audience to see if anyone in the audience has any questions. But my question is, did he ever get any compensation or recognition for what he had done during his lifetime and after the movie was made and seen?
Actually, unfortunately, I can say that in Israel, only after the movie he started to receive any recognition. And you know, those people, the veterans of the Second World War, who served in the Soviet army, and even who served in the American army, there were 1.5 million Jews fighting against the Nazis. But in the narrative, in the Israeli historic narrative, many of them were omitted. They were rejected from the national pantheon. And why? Because they were not Jewish enough. They were not Zionist enough. And I dare to say it because it is true. Those people who served in the Soviet army, like Berenshtein, they went to fight not to save their brother Jews. No, they went as Soviet people to save the Soviet homeland, and they shouted after Stalin, but still they contributed to the victory. And without this victory, there wouldn't be a state of Israel, and there wouldn't be any freedom in this world. So we all owe them, and they will all a part of not only the general history, but a part of a Jewish history, because as we tried to depict in this movie, they felt that they were Jews. Although they went to fight as Soviets, they were reminded constantly of their Jewish identity, from their anti-Semitic friends and from their official higher ranks when they were restricted to receive the medals they deserve. And of course, when they opened the gates of the death camps and they saw the Jews, they knew they could be in their place. So in this war, many of them found their Jewish identity, and Berenshtein was one of them, and he represents those people who are unfortunately not remembered in Israel as they should be. And I hope that the museum, which will open, will fix this situation.
Thank you, and your comment is leading me to another question, but I promised that we would take some questions from the audience. Does anyone have a question? And Olivia's walking around with a mic.
Just a quick question, and that is, the museum that they are referencing, I presume it's in Israel, but where exactly in Israel is it going to be located?
It's going to be located between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv in Latrun. It's a valley of Ayalon, and it's exactly in the middle between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem.
I know it is. Thank you. Okay.
We're coming to you.
Should I speak? Okay. The last speech that Berenshtein gives is very powerful. I'm wondering whether you scripted that or whether it was based on anything in his book, and also whether in fact he liberated those villagers, or was that something that you constructed?
It is a true story. He did liberated those Jews in the settlement of Baligrod. The last speech is we do not know what exactly he said in this occasion, but all the words were based on the messages he wanted to pass to us. He never said it in those exact words because, well, he was not too much a man of words, at least not in when he was already, as Roman said, 95. But still, those ideas, yes, they are his ideas.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I have a question. Is it on? Yeah. I have a question about Leonard's books. When I did my research, I was unable to find any book that he had written, and my understanding from what you just said was that there were 5. Is that correct? And are
Well,
they in Hebrew? Are they in Russian?
They're all in Russian, and one of them is in the Slovak language. And I think there are more. There are 2 books in Slovak language because we actually didn't touch even 10% of what this man did. But in Slovakia, he took a great part in the Slovak uprising, and actually led 5,000 men to help winning this uprising and liberating Slovakia from the Nazi regime. So he's a hero there, but yep, it's only in Russian and in Slovak. There's no book in English and no book in Hebrew.
Do you know if there are any plans to translate those books?
Unfortunately, no. I will be glad if somebody will undertake this project, but as long as I know, nothing.
Thank you.
Yes.
If there are any other questions in
Yes,
the audience, we have a question.
I wanted to thank you for doing this because I grew up with many Holocaust survivors. My father's story was very similar to Berenstein's, but he could never write it down. It was too emotional. He would wake up at night with a nightmare just thinking about some of these things that happened in the war. And there were many, many heroic Jews. My father fought fought with the Russian army after he escaped a Nazi labor camp. My aunt died saving Jewish children. But you know, many of them never got to write, or they couldn't write. It was too difficult. So it was very good that Berenshtein was able to write about it, and you were able to make a movie, because there are many, many similar stories that unfortunately people couldn't tell because it was just too emotionally difficult. Every time remembering your best friends, your relatives, and the people you were fighting with dying. I think it was just too difficult for my father. He could never write it down. He would start choking up when he thought about what happened. So thank you very much, and thank Berenshtein for having the courage to go past the. It must have been very difficult for him to write this down. A lot of people don't realize it, because for every person in Berenshtein, there must have been 100 or 1,000 who couldn't, because the memories were much too difficult to write down.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you for sharing.
I'm curious if either of you know what happened to the other partisans that were featured in the movie. Anything else that you can share about them besides what was featured at the end?
Roma?
Sorry, I didn't learn. Simonish,
About the other partisans, the friends of Berenshtein.
Oh, yeah. Actually, we as Simon said, that we really wanted to share the different narrative of the history, and for us it was very important to be as much closer to the history and to the real story of Berenshtein and his friends, and we took all the characters that were with him, like from his books. He is sharing a lot of and telling a lot about his friends and the partisans that was with him, and we took it was much more, and all of them, about all of them you can make a different movie. It's really crazy stories, and we took the main characters that can on a summer like to summarize and to help us to bring the bigger story. And only one person, only one character in this movie were not real. It's Marina. She was really, he's not real person, but we wanted to make as much as emotional scenes, and she helped us to make it. For example, the scene when with burning village, she like a mirror to Bernstein, to see his emotionals about it, but all other characters are real characters, and they have their story.
Thank you. So a few moments ago, you talked about how maybe Berenshtein how Berenshtein maybe wasn't considered like Jewish enough or connected enough to his Jewish identity. Can each of you just reflect on the idea of global Jewish peoplehood and what it means to have a connection to the state and the people of Israel while also living in the diaspora, but still having that connection to one another because of our Jewish identities?
Well, you see, the thing with the writing of history is that the people who write it, they always want to serve some other purposes besides only writing the story. So when in the beginning of the state of Israel, right after the war, the people who were praised and became a hero and became heroes are, for example, the fighters of Warsaw Ghetto, or the Jewish partisans of Lithuania, Bielski partisans. We all know about them. And why? It was obvious, because they were persecuted because they were Jews. They were put in the ghetto because they were Jews. They were fighting because they were trying, the Nazis were trying to kill them because they were Jews, and then they ran away and hide because they were Jews, and then they want to revenge because of they were Jews. So the Jewish identity was all the way there. But the people who joined the Soviets and the American and French army and the British army, they weren't like that. And after the war, they didn't come to Israel. They stayed in the countries they lived in, and somehow, despite their tremendous contribution to this victory, they were forgotten. So we're trying now to fix it in Israel because of course not how many percentage of Jewish identity you had inside yourself. It's not an important thing, because every Jew, no matter where he was, if he was fighting Nazis, he's a part of history, of the Jewish history. So it must be fixed. And I may add one more thing to maybe it's not quite connected to this question, but it connected to the people who participated in this movie. And I just want to say some words about them, because when we filmed this movie, the war, it was filmed on Ukrainian soil, of course, around Kiev mainly. And when we filmed it, the war was a thing of a past. It was history. We were filming history, but we never thought that in less than 1 year after we will finish this movie, the history will become a present. And in those very same places where we shoot our movie, the same guys who were actor soldiers are now fighting as a real soldiers in a real fight. And the dilemmas of wartime suddenly became relevant, and the collaboration with the occupants, the partisans, the raves, the looting, everything became relevant suddenly for those very places we filmed, and for these very people. A week ago, an editor who edited a big part of this movie, Victor, he fell, he was killed in Bakhmut front a week ago. Pavel Aldoshin, who played Imas, is now recovering from injury he is also fighting. Medvedrodgar, our stuntman, is fighting on Donetsk direction, liberating the city of Liman, and so on. So those stories became very, very relevant and actual and we never thought it would be, the movie will be so relevant, but unfortunately it became like that.
Thank you for sharing that. Roman, would you like to add anything?
I'm happy to answer any questions if there are.
Okay, so I think we have time for one final question, Olivia. Oh.
I'm just curious, when you were filming the scenes with children and they were, just screaming for their parents, mama, daddy, or whatever, how did you make it so real without totally devastating those kids?
Oh, yeah, it's a hard question. Actually, the children's scenes in this movie, it's very difficult, and especially scene when with the Goring village. It was a very difficult scene for all of us. But you know, before the scene, before the filming, we bring all the children with his mothers and fathers, and all. It's not only actors; it's children that play with their mothers. And it's like families together. So I bring all the children and their mothers and all the Nazis, like actors, and say, hey, everything is good. We're just going to play, and they just and they start to play together and to talk, and to children like so that everything is fine. But when we started to film, and their mothers start to play and to scream, so children like got shocked because they saw their mothers scream, and they start to cry, and we did. I just stopped it on the second take, and we finished, and we didn't continue, but it was enough to see you know, the real emotions of how it was after the film, after the shooting. We just we've been together, and everything was fine, and we like switched to fun, but it was a really nervous scene, and yeah, it's a very hard day on the shooting.
Thank you so much. And the acting in the film was incredible, and especially the children. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to invite Robin up. We're going to select our door prize winners. So the door prize winners for today will receive.
Well, as you heard my question about Leonard's book and the fact that I couldn't find anything that he had written, I did find A Partisan's Memoir, and it is A Woman of the Holocaust by Faye Schulman. So I imagine that this book, somewhat similar, not quite, but somewhat similar to the story that we just saw. So our winners are, now is this for?
This is for the in-person.
This is for the in-person. Okay, our ticket number is 908524. Is that ticket holder present? 908524. All right, I'll pick another. Our next number is 908533. Is that person here? 533.
I think we'll pick one more, and then we'll pick one more, and in a moment I should be getting texted of who our virtual winner is. Our next winner, 908519. There they go. I also know it's hard because the lights are off. Let's see. Our in-person winner is going to be. Ooh, what's your number? We'll see if you won. Here, I can look at it if you'd like. 908533.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you're a winner. Okay, and our online winner is Ann Lowe. So we will mail Ann a copy of the book. Congratulations, Donna for winning, and we'll turn the lights up in a moment. Feel free to grab some pizza for sale from the kosher pizza truck outside. Our next film begins at 2 o'clock, Fiddler's Journey to the Big Screen. And one other thing that I'll add, Roman and Simon, thank you so much for creating this beautiful docudrama. We're also screening Exodus 91, which is a docudrama about an Ethiopian story, Operation Solomon. And tomorrow night is that post-film program all on Zoom. So ticket holders will be receiving that post-film program link shortly. But Exodus 91 is another incredible docudrama. Roman, Simon, thank you so much for being with us
Thank
at this
you.
hour in Israel.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and I'll be in touch about future projects and how we could connect you with the community here in Southern Arizona. Thank you so much for being with us.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I was moved by this film just as much as the first time when I
when you
saw
watched
it.
it. Yeah.